Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine McNulty. I am the city's community engagement specialist, and welcome to our Ward 3 City Hall community meeting. Before we begin, I would like to note that there are bathrooms by the entrance of the cafeteria. Pizza and refreshments are at the back of the room, and copies of tonight's slide deck can be found over here on the ping pong table. At this time, I would like to invite Ward Councillor Ben Ewan-Campen up here to say a quick hello.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Before we go any further, I would like to ask that everyone join me in giving Mayor Ballantyne a round of applause and the administration. I also want to recognize a bunch of my colleagues are here, so I don't miss anyone. Can the city councilors please raise your hands? Councillor Jake Wilson is here, Councillor at Large. Councillor Kristen Strezzo is here. Thank you all for being here. I'm Ben Ewan-Campen. For anyone I haven't met, I'm the Ward 3 City Councilor. I'll be here listening with all of you. If there are any questions that I can help answer tonight, I'll be here all night. Thank you all for taking the time out of your lives to be here.
So for the meeting format, after each presentation, we will take 2 initial questions. We have a microphone available for audience questions, so please raise your hand and wait for the microphone before asking your question. If we do not get to your question initially, please hold on to it because at the end of all presentations, we will open up into a general Q&A. Please note that we would like to give everybody the opportunity to ask a question. I will do my best to prioritize audience members who have not spoken yet during the Q&A segments. If we don't get to your question at all tonight, please email cm@somervillema.gov and we'll direct a comment to the appropriate department. So with that being said, I have a few quick city updates before we dive into the main presentations. So for surveys, the City of Somerville is planning to build a new PK through 8 school building, and the Construction Advisory Group, Mayor Ballantyne, and Somerville Public Schools want to hear from you. The survey is open until Monday, September 22nd at 11:59 p.m. You can find it by scanning the QR code on the left side of the screen or by visiting somervillema.gov/new PK-8. The Somerville Public Library Strategic Planning Survey is open until Friday, October 10th. You can fill out the survey by scanning the QR code on the right side of this slide or visiting the link that is listed on that slide as well. A reminder that Somerville's municipal election will take place on Tuesday, November 4th. On this slide are various deadlines for registering to vote, submitting vote-by-mail applications, as well as blue box locations for dropping off vote-by-mail ballots. For all election information, please visit somervillema.gov/elections. And before we move on, I just want to say that the elections department is looking for poll workers. If you are really passionate about elections and you want to meet a bunch of your neighbors, please email, is it HR? I think it's HR@somervillema.gov. I will double check on that. Apologies, but you guys should all be poll workers. In collaboration with mobility, parking, and fire departments, the engineering division has been improving traffic signals throughout the city. In particular, we are executing a key goal of the administration's fiscal year 26 budget to upgrade our traffic signals with a location-based emergency vehicle preemption system. Accessibility is equally important. We are in the process of installing 200 accessible crossing signs with the street name and raised text in Braille across the city. We are also actively upgrading our pedestrian signals with accessible push buttons and countdown timers. Cannabis social consumption refers to the ability for adults to legally purchase and consume cannabis products in public spaces, similar to how alcohol is sold and consumed at a bar or events. Somerville is creating pathways for businesses and individuals to participate in cannabis social consumption, both as a seller and a purchaser, in line with rules and guidelines established by the State of Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. To learn more about the program and sign up for public meetings this fall, visit somervillema.gov/social consumption. If you are currently a caregiver, the Somerville Council on Aging has resources for you and your family. The COA offers a caregiver support group, educational resources from partner organizations, and other forms of group support. Learn more and register by contacting Molly Pagliuca by email at Pagliuca at somervillema.gov or by calling 617-625-6600, extension 2318. The Somerville Climate Ambassador Program is designed to empower Somerville residents to take action on climate change in their community. If you're looking for an opportunity to learn something new, get involved in your community, become a local leader, or just meet new people, consider applying to become a climate ambassador. You can scan the QR code here or visit somervillema.gov/CFA to apply. Applications are open until December 1st. Upcoming events. There is a lot to do in Somerville, and tonight we are going to highlight some of these events. What the Fluff Festival will be taking place this Saturday, September 20th on Somerville Ave between School Street to Warren Ave from 2 to 6 p.m. Ignite Festival is taking place next Saturday, September 27th in the Union Square Plaza from 3:30 to 7:30 p.m. Summer Street's Monster Mash is also planned for Sunday, October 19th on Somerville Ave between School Street to Warren Ave from 2 to 6 p.m. And finally, you can stay up to date with all things City of Somerville by subscribing to our weekly newsletter. You can do this by using the QR code on this slide or by visiting somervillema.gov/subscribe. On this webpage, you'll find a list of other departments that all have their own newsletters. We welcome you to subscribe to any and all that might interest you. So that concludes the quick updates portion of the event, and I would now like to welcome Mayor Ballantyne to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Let me start off by acknowledging yesterday's election. As you're likely aware, I will not be your mayor past January. I want to offer congratulations to my colleagues on advancing to the general election, but please know I'm not going anywhere yet. I have a few more months and I intend to use them. My goal tonight is to talk about the amazing work that my administration, our staff here, do on a daily basis, and they're doing it right now. And I also want you to know that my heart belongs to Somerville, and I will always work to improve our home and our community. So for many of you who have been to these meetings that I've hosted over the last 4 years, or even as a ward councilor, I start off with an icebreaker. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, please raise your hand if this is your first City Hall community meeting. Awesome, welcome. So raise your hand if you've lived in Somerville less than 1 year. Okay, welcome. Less than 2 years. Okay. Between 2 years and 5 years. Okay. Between 5 years and 10 years. Okay. Between 10 years and 20 years. Okay. Between 20 and 25. 25 and 30? Over 30? Okay. Now, if you've lived here your entire life, raise your hand. Okay. All right, wonderful. If you have a child in the Somerville Public Schools, please raise your hand. Okay. If you visit our Council on Aging offices, either on Holland Street or over on New Washington Street, raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. If you plan to go to Fluff Fest this weekend, raise your hand. Okay, all right, wonderful. Thank you. So the next thing I always like to do is to have our staff raise their hands, stand up, and introduce themselves and the department. And this is for those of you who are new, this is really quick, but I just want the audience to know who is here today. So if you have to leave early for whatever reason and you have a particular question for a department or a person, you can see where they are. So I'm going to ask staff to please stand up. Okay, awesome. All right, wow. Okay, so let's see if we can do this under 2 minutes. And use a loud voice, okay? We're in a school, so pretend you're a teacher, and need to use a loud voice. So I'm going to start, Amanda, I'm going to start back there with you, okay?
Okay, my name is Amanda Nash-Williams. I'm the Director of Racial and Social Justice. Good evening, everyone. Lauren Mahoney, Deputy Director of Emergency Management, here with Bill Fisher, Director of Emergency Management.
She introduced me.
Yeah.
She said.
I'm Alex Veras, I work for 311. Honored and a great pleasure to be here with you folks.
I am Eileen Costa, 311 also, but also a Ward 3 resident.
My name is Ed Hardy. I'm the Customer Experience Manager representing Constituent Services at 311.
My name is Lisa Davidson. I am the Director of Housing.
I'm Jill Currier, Client Services Manager for Office of Housing Stability.
Ted Fields, Economic Development.
Alexis Turgeon, Housing Grants Manager, Housing. I'm also a Ward 3 resident.
I'm Shannon Lawler. I'm the Fair Housing and Inclusionary Specialist, and I'm also a Ward 3 resident.
Hey everybody, Brad Ross, and I serve as Director of Mobility in the Mayor's Community Development Office.
Hi everyone, Victoria McGregor, Communications Department. Hi everyone, Meg Alice, Communications Coordinator. I'm Christine. I just spoke. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist in the Communications Department.
I'm Jessica Bello. I'm the Senior Traffic Engineer here as a Ward 3 resident.
I'm Nick Salerno, Elections Commissioner. Remember to come out and vote November 4th.
Okay, so why don't we, start on the floor here and go across. Start to the left.
Shannon Taylor, Energy Advisor in the Office of Sustainability and Environment.
Hi all, I'm Elise Belarge. I'm the Sustainability and Resiliency Planner in the Office of Sustainability and Environment.
Hi everyone, Estella Reganet, Senior Public Space Planner with Public Space and Urban Forestry.
Hi, I'm Kelly O'Loughlin. I work in the Economic Development Division.
Jim Donovan, Deputy Chief of Police Department.
Nikki Spencer, Chief of Staff.
Neha Singh, Director of Intergovernmental.
Hi, I'm Hafa, Portuguese Services Coordinator, Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Hi, I'm Jesse Lewis, Construction Liaison, Engineer.
Brian Holstwait, Director of Engineering in the Infrastructure and Asset Management Department.
Hi, Ashley Scaliotis, the Director of the Council on Aging. Hi, Amy Gonzalez, the Outreach Provider with Preservation Planning and Zoning.
Hi all, I'm Dan Bartman. I'm the Planning Director with the Planning, Preservation, and Zoning Division.
Hi, I'm Connor McCombs. I work in the Health and Human Services Department.
Hi, Alicia Privet, Inspectional Services, RATS.
Hi, my name is Gani. Everybody, could you support? Can you get some up there?
Denise Taylor, Communications and Community Engagement. We organize these meetings. Feel free to give us feedback.
And I'm Sean Tierney. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief.
Sean Sheehan, Captain with the Police Department.
And I forgot to shut off my phone, so thank you, everybody. So today this evening, we're going to talk about how we're taking on the housing crisis. I mean, obviously, for some of you, this might be a surprise, but Massachusetts is in the midst of a housing crisis, and to be honest with you, the nation is too. And this is foundational and core issue that deeply affects residents' lives and the fabric of our community. So this evening, I'm going to talk about what's happening and what we're doing about it. So first, if I could just talk at a high level, the housing crisis, what does it mean? It means that home prices over a 23-year period rose 73%, and incomes rose 4%. And nearly 40% of Somerville households are housing burdened. And 1 in 5 in Somerville spend over half their income on housing costs. A key reason this is happening is our region is a job engine. but we're not a housing engine. We are creating jobs that draw and keep workers and their families here, but our region is not creating housing to meet the demand. So the jobs to housing ratio is imbalanced. If you know, the numbers will say about 80%, 85% of Somerville workers go to Boston and Cambridge for work. Because the jobs aren't here, they're commuting there. And Somerville historically has been the dormitory to Boston and Cambridge. So if you're not a visual person, here's a graph just to indicate the blue line shows the housing prices skyrocketing over a 23-year period, and the orange line shows the household incomes. And then on this next slide, you see it as a pie chart. You can see the breakdown of housing burdened households in Somerville, which total 40% when you combine severely and moderately burdened in the red and the yellow wedges. These numbers paint a stressful story, but what does it feel like to live through a housing crisis? It feels like someone who's on a fixed income, who's lived in the same apartment for 20 years, receiving notice their rent is doubling. It feels like a couple who wants to expand their family but can't afford a larger living space. It feels like staying in an unsafe or unstable housing situation because there's no affordable alternative. It feels like leaving food in your grocery basket at the checkout because of your high rent. It feels like you're losing touch with your cherished neighbors, classmates, families because they have to move out of Somerville. The bottom line, we all know how hard it is right now to find and maintain housing we can afford. So what is Somerville doing about it? I know that's the number one question on people's minds. So the answer is we're trying to do everything we can. We're trying to use every tool. We are leveraging the tools, and when we don't have the right tools, we create or we advocate for it. Under my leadership, we've adopted some nimble and creative approaches to housing policy that's helping us find new pathways to flexibility. So I'll list a few of them. We're purchasing homes with nonprofits before they hit the market to keep those in the units, keep those units affordable. We've launched a consolidated rental wait list to reduce the red tape for affordable housing access, and we're advocating at the state level for rent stabilization. And we also at the state level successfully fought to lower rental search fees. I really want to pause and say that the Community Preservation Act last fall, Somerville voters overwhelmingly supported doubling the percentage rate from 1.5% to the legal maximum of 3%. To effectively double the amount from $3 million to $6 million that goes towards the creation of affordable housing. The choice you all made at the ballot box is bringing in dollars that make real change, and really need to thank everybody who voted for it. There are 3 key pillars to our housing approach here in Somerville. Make sure more housing is built, both market rate and affordable. Keep people in their homes, so this is preventing displacement, and make new units responsive to the community needs so the homes we create will be a good fit for those who need them most. So let me walk you through what these each look like. So we're building more housing. The recent state study shows Massachusetts needs 222,000 new homes by 2035 to meet the demand. Well, Somerville has almost 1,000 new housing units in the pipeline just now, right now, and we're doing our part. To give you a sense, we have 33,000 housing units in the city of Somerville. So the region needs 222,000. So we're trying to do our part by creating more. And some of the Community Preservation Act, we've been able to support this by, for example, 25 affordable apartments for the elderly and disabled at the Mystic Waterworks, 6 affordable home ownerships at Glen Street, 54 permanently affordable homes through the 100 Homes program, and 319 units, including 136 affordable at 299 Broadway. We're also building forward the neighborhood scale plans. In August, we adopted Assembly Square Neighborhood Plan, a long-range plan which aims to create almost 3,000 to almost 6,000 new housing units. That would include nearly 600 to 1,100 affordable housing units. In the Brick Bottom area, is done with the plans, and we're almost done with the zoning, and this has a goal of adding 400 to about 625 new homes. Together, these plans could bring over 6,000 new homes to Somerville. That's 6,000 to our 33,000 housing units we have now. So let me talk a little bit about the 100 Homes program. So back in 2015, we partnered with Somerville Community Corporation, our affordable housing developer, to buy homes in our neighborhoods that are or will be on the market for sale and keep them permanently affordable. So far, we've secured 106 homes from the open market, so we prevented displacement for working and middle income tenants. This is a powerful model funded by our CPA, the city's contribution, and by private capital, and it's helping keep Somerville homes for all residents. Back closer to home in this particular ward, let's take a look. And I won't run through all of them, but they're there. There's a lot under the way that we're supporting, including the YMCA overhaul, which will include 100 affordable housing units for vulnerable residents, of which 60 will be new units. So now let's go on to displacement, keeping people in their homes. While we build for the future, we're also deploying a wide range of supportive resources to protect residents right now. We have our Somerville Home Improvement Program, provides zero interest loans to low and moderate income homeowners for critical repairs like leaky roofs, failing heating systems, or unsafe porches to prevent displacement and keep homes habitable and code compliant. We also offer support through direct rental assistance. In 2022, we used ARPA funds to launch a rental assistant program for residents facing ongoing economic hardship. The program assisted with overdue rents, provided ongoing rental assistance during housing searches, and startup expenses like deposits to move families into new units. And by the end of 2024, it was Somerville's largest and most successful rental assistance program and the most flexible and robust program of its kind in Massachusetts. In response, our Office of Housing Stability partnered with the Somerville Homeless Coalition and CAS to create a successor program to continue this work. And as of June 2025, we have put more than $5.6 million into direct rental assistance, serving 892 people across 677 households. Now, the third pillar, matching housing to people's needs. As we build and preserve housing units, we need to ensure access for people who need them most. Our inclusionary housing program is one of the most powerful tools. I mentioned earlier that Massachusetts needs over 222,000 housing units in the next decade to stabilize our housing crisis. The market rate housing counts towards that goal just as much as affordable housing does. In Somerville, we passed the inclusionary zoning measure that requires new buildings with 4 or more units. They must make at least 20% of their units affordable. And those of you who do the math, if there's a fraction, then the money goes into the developer, or the property owner puts the money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which then funds full units. So in 2021, Somerville has added 2,923 housing units, and our inclusionary zoning ensured that nearly 500 of them would be affordable. Almost 500 affordable rental units to date, and there's more on the way. Now, senior housing. To make sure we have housing for people who need it most, my administration has made housing for older adults a priority. The average Social Security monthly payment is about $2,000. Meanwhile, the median rent for an apartment in Somerville is $3,423 a month. That doesn't add up. And the result is a years-long wait list for senior public housing. Given the gap between the escalating rents and the fixed incomes of older adults, I knew the additional resources and creative thinking were needed to prevent this displacement. Fortunately, we had the support of Senator Jalen, and we received $100,000 last year to create an older adult housing bridge pilot program. With this funding, my administration and our nonprofit partner, CAS, were able to keep 8 senior households at risk of imminent displacement safely and securely housed. The pilot success resulted in the states more than doubling the funding for this year up to $220,000. I do have to say that fund is on hold and pending as the state reviews their budget in October of 2025. And our success is being noted throughout the state. Just over the border, Boston has announced the launch of a similar program, yet another example of Somerville leading the way and a strong coalition of advocates of working to extend this pilot program statewide. Another thing that we've launched is a municipal voucher program, and it's a success story. While administering the rental assistance in collaboration with our school department, Office of Housing and Basic Needs, our Office of Housing Stability identified a number of Somerville families that would be unable to transition from temporary rental assistance into stable, unsubsidized housing, since they would not be able to increase their income sufficiently to pay for the increased rents. In response, my administration created and launched the first ever of its kind, a municipal voucher program in partnership with CAS, our community partner, and also the Cambridge Housing Authority. This program provides locally funded rental assistance to families with extremely low income who aren't eligible for federal or state support, with focus on families with children in the Somerville Public Schools. We've already enrolled 30 families. They pay no more than 30% of their income towards rent, and help also provided for security deposits and other stabilization services. It's taken intensive staff work from both the city and the schools to make this program a success. The photo is a couple of our friendly Office of Housing Stability staff here. Then finally, advocacy. While we're building housing, I've also directed staff to actively advocate for greater tenant protections in order to help keep tenants in their home. So preventing evictions is a key focus. Our Office of Housing Stability advocated for statewide legislation to allow some eviction cases to be sealed, which resulted in the Affordable Homes Act becoming law in August of 2025, and we're helping people understand their new rights by holding tenant workshops. Access to legal representation is also important. Housing creation also requires funding, so we've been advocating for that too. And rent stabilization will also restore sanity to the housing market. My anti-displacement task force drafted a home rule petition for rent stabilization that is currently at the state awaiting a hearing. If accepted, it would limit the annual rent increases in larger buildings to a maximum of 5%, including exceptions for owner-occupied buildings of 3 or fewer units. This bill would also help prevent retaliatory or discriminatory evictions by adding just cause eviction protections. So the total investments, what does it look like in terms? You can see it here. We've invested in historic levels of advancing housing affordability and stability goals, a total of roughly $62 million in 3 years. Finally, I would say I'm always trying to keep an eye on both sides of the coin as I use that metaphor. If I was to list every way we're making Somerville a home for everyone, we'd be here until sunrise because there's a lot going on. What I've mentioned is just a sample, but I do want to share one important piece. The two sides of the coin of housing affordability. Displacement and unaffordability relates to our jobs economy too. We need to train our people and create good jobs so everyone can afford to stay in their homes. So workforce development, stable local employers are the other side of affordable housing. Through our Adult Learning Center scale and our partnership with the public schools and more, we're opening access to job training in clean energy, building maintenance, and skilled trades. And that's a gateway to good jobs. We're helping local employers stay local, which supports local jobs. In 2024, we launched the new Small Business Vitality Grant, offering up to 12 months of rental support for storefronts, and released a commercial leasing handbook to help entrepreneurs navigate leasing. When I say we're using every tool in the toolbox, I mean it. Somerville alone cannot solve the housing crisis. We are doing absolutely everything we can to build more housing, combat displacement, as we are with our state partners. From strengthening tenant protections to expanding affordable housing to rethinking regional housing policy, we must keep going, and we will. Together, we can ensure Somerville remains a place we can all call home. So thank you.
We are going to do 2 quick questions now for the mayor. Any other questions that you have for her, you can hold until the end for the general Q&A. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Patrick, I live down on Walnut Street. About the housing work and the CPA funds, thank you to the voters of Somerville for increasing the amount. I think that's great. But how much of the CPA funds are being spent on the Affordable Housing Trust versus open space funds and historic preservation funds. I know that Cambridge just on Monday night decided to reaffirm spending 80% on affordable housing. I think that's great, and I would like to see Somerville do that too. Thank you.
Thank you. The answer to the question, I'm going to see if I can remember it from memory, but at least I'm probably going to need your help. Is it 50%? 55%? And then what about the 45%? Is that broken 50 and 50?
That's broken up between historic and public space.
Yeah, so it's evenly divided. But thank you for your comment. Yes.
Hi, I'm Roberta. I live on Berkeley Street. I'm asking this now because I don't see this subject covered anywhere else in the agenda. When the East Somerville Community School burned, the students were displaced for 2 years while a new school was built. I understand the Winter Hill School is going to take 6 years. Can you explain to me why this is such a long process?
Thank you for the question. I will say the answer I got from our capital projects is it took 6 years. And I actually was pregnant. My younger daughter was 3 weeks old. It was in 2007 that the fire happened. And she was the first kindergarten class when it opened up, which was in 2013. So it took 6 years for the emergency procurement for that. In reference to the Winter Hill School, the other thing is, at least if I have my facts down from our capital projects team, is there was not demolition at the East Somerville Community School, meaning as yes, they put in windows, but they primarily did new construction to a structure that was in place. With the Winter Hill School, I'm not sure if anybody is here from capital projects, but with the Winter Hill School, there is very likely that it will be demolished or partially demolished and reconstructed all new. So, you know, if one uses an analogy as their home and you had a fire in it and maybe it was mainly smoke damage, doing the renovation on that probably is shorter than if you had a fire or damage to it that, you know, put holes in it and you had to demolish portions of it to reconstruct. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Next up, I would like to welcome Ed Hardy from the 311 and Constituent Services Office.
Good evening, Ward 3. I gotta take after the mayor, and I'm going to ask a question. How many people here have called 311? All right. That's about right, because, you know, in 2024, 311 answered over 80,000 calls, just about one phone call for every man, woman, and child in the city of Somerville. So I am very proud, after attending these community meetings for many years now, to be able to speak and represent this group that I'm so proud to be a part of. I truly believe that they are some of the hardest working, most dedicated people in the city. The depth and breadth of their knowledge in helping get you the services you need, over 300 different service types from 20 different departments, is just astounding. I've managed call center, customer service, and customer experience programs around the world, and these are some of the most dedicated and capable people that I've had the pleasure of working with. And I'd really like to recognize them. We have Eileen and Alex from 311 here. I'd like to give them a round of applause. I really am. But anyway, I'm here to talk about who we are and what we do. 311 is the helpline. We have a saying: if you have a burning building, call 911. If you have a burning question, call 311. It's for non-emergency information only. Our mission, provide the best municipal customer service and the customer experience in the Commonwealth, bar none. And again, in my experience, I believe we're at that level. I think we're at the fulcrum. We are delivering some of the best customer service from any municipality in the state. We are here for three basic reasons. We are going to connect you with the right department. If the 311 agents like Eileen and Alex can't handle it directly on the first call, we'll route it to the appropriate department that can handle your issue and open your service request. We'll answer your questions on city programs, and we'll help you resolve any kind of issues you may be having. We're available 24/7, 365. Again, I chose the words carefully here. We are available, meaning you can log a service request 24/7, 365. It doesn't mean the service will be rendered at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you'll at least be able to, if you have an urgent call at 2 in the morning, you will get your call answered. We'll log it, and the call will be routed to the appropriate department for follow-up, probably during business hours the next business day. So we're very proud of that. And like I said, the numbers speak for themselves. Just a tremendous amount of volume that we handle. What happens when you do call? If anyone's been into our Civic Day, we've got a presentation that shows what it is. Basically, we've got three big buckets that a call will go into. It's either Eileen is going to pick up your phone. Hello, thank you for calling 311. This is Eileen Costa. How can I help you? And she's going to be able to help you from start to finish. She's going to answer any question you have. That's when I talk about the depth and breadth of the 311 agents and their ability to understand all the complex ongoings within the city. The second bucket is something that maybe Eileen or Alex can't handle. They're going to be then logging a ticket into our call tracking system. They're going to be routing that ticket to the appropriate department, whether it's DPW, parking, or any of the other departments within the city. And then a representative from that department will follow up and close out the call. And the third area is we're just a listening post, right? We're here to listen to you. If you don't know who to call, but you've got something on your mind, again, the burning question, not the burning building, and you just got to get it off your chest, call 311. We'll make a note of it. It's called feedback. And that feedback is documented, it's routed, it's categorized, it's quantified, it's qualified, and routed to the people. We analyze that. I keep saying all the time, the information that we're getting back through the constituents is really driving our efforts to continuously improve our services. So those are the three basic buckets. The most important one is a service request. If you are routed to a department, you'll get a ticket number emailed to you or texted to you. You'll be able to follow up with that reference number or your service request number. Keep that handy if you do need to call back. And you'll receive text updates as to the status of your call. And when the call is done, you'll get a prompt to answer our customer satisfaction survey. And that's for every unique call. It's not just once in a year or something like that. Every time you call 311 and you have a specific service request, you're going to get a customer satisfaction survey. We strongly encourage you to keep taking those and evaluate us on that specific event, that specific service request that we've done. Again, your feedback by taking those customer satisfaction surveys are helping drive us to improve our services. This is the Ward 3 breakdown compared to the city overall and some of the main reasons that you are calling 311. I'm not going to read them verbatim. Again, you represented about 13%, which is, one of 7 wards is about 14.25%, I believe. So you represent about 13% of all our active service requests that are coming in. It's right on par. A lot to do with parking and permits and all that stuff. But we have a list there of Ward 3 service requests that are being opened. Next one. Yeah, that's it. So I promised my deputy director that we'd say this, but so we want to close by reminding everyone of 3 simple but powerful ways you can help. First, call 311. Whenever you see something that needs fixing, have a question, or aren't sure which departments to reach, start with us. We're the gateway to city services, and calling 311 helps make sure your issue is tracked and routed to the right place. Second, spread the word. Many neighbors don't realize how easy it is to use 311. If you have a friend, a family member, or a neighbor who's frustrated about a pothole, a trash pickup, or even just wants some information, tell them to contact 311. Referring others helps make sure everyone knows that they have a direct link to City Hall. And finally, as I was just mentioning, please fill out the surveys. After every request is completed, you may get the short survey link. The information you provide through our customer satisfaction survey is aiding us in improving our overall service delivery model. Please continue taking these surveys each time you receive one, and rate us on how well we performed on that specific request. The feedback captured in these surveys are the fuel that drives our continuous improvement efforts. So remember, call 311, tell your neighbors about 311, and share your feedback when we ask. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. My name is Sam Engelstad. I live in Prospect Hill.
Hi, Sam.
First of all, I want to say how really wonderful the 311 system works. The people who answer the phone are knowledgeable. They go out of their way to help. It's service with a smile. So that part of it is really great.
Thank you,
But
Sam.
I live in Prospect Hill, and I cannot call 311. I have to call the landline number to City of Somerville, and I wonder how many people. I wonder how many people in Somerville have that problem.
I've heard of this problem. It's a telecommunications issue. It has to do with the wireless networks that go on. If you are on the periphery, on the border of Somerville and Cambridge, we'll get Cambridge calls. Cambridge will get our calls. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that we can't handle, which is why we do publicize both the 311. If you're in Somerville proper, it should route properly through the telenetworking system. But if not, we do have the direct dial number as well. But unfortunately, it's just a technology gap that we have. And until that's overcome by the powers that be, it's just a fact of life for us right now.
So I don't think I live on the periphery, living in Prospect Hill. And yet I get the city, every time I call 311, I get the City of Cambridge 311. And sometimes the Boston 311. And I understand, I have asked this question before, and I had this explanation before. I just wanted to, curiosity, how many people have this problem?
It's not huge. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but if you have to, I'm not for
Or people could raise their hands. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sylvia. I live on Central Street. I just want to answer or provide perhaps an answer. I got my phone when I was living for a short time in Cambridge, my cell number. So it was registered in Cambridge. If I dial 311 to this day, 25 years later, it still connects me to Cambridge. So it may be something like that. I have to dial direct if I'm calling 311. I have it on speed dial.
Thank you for that, Sylvia.
I'm sorry. Someone?
我想说我在那个街上，就白天，9、10点钟的时候，然后那个我们的社区，我在旺纳特死队住，我遛狗，在社区上经常看到这么大的死老鼠，血淋淋的，我看了很恶心。这种情况要不要打311？
Do we have a translator?
So sometimes when I walk my dog on Walnut Street where I live, like 9 or 10 p.m., I see large, dead, bloody rats. What should I do? Should I call 311?
Yes. Do you want to stay and reply? Yes, call 311. That's exactly one of the service requests that we take care of. We're not going to be the ones that come out and handle it. As long as it's on public property, we'll log the case, and the person from DPW will come and take care of the issue. But definitely call 311. When in doubt, I always say, when in doubt, call 311. No more needs for a Rolodex or a full page of the old phone books, if anyone remember what those are. One call to City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ed. And next up to the podium, I would like to welcome Lauren Mahoney, who is our Deputy Director of the Office of Emergency Management.
Hello, good evening, everyone. A pleasure to be with you all. I'm going to start out by asking how many folks in the room know what emergency management is? A lot more hands than I thought. So on the next slide, we're going to play here when we ask the question, what is emergency management, answers that we typically receive. So when we think about emergency management, it's a lot of things. So it's about resilience, it goes into our critical mission, mitigation, coordination, comprehensive, proactive, has to do with response and recovery, continuity, it's multidisciplinary, it's a collaborative approach. It's about preparedness, it's meant to be equitable, and it's meant to be accessible. And when you put all of those things together, in the end, it is community focused. For the folks in the room that may not understand what emergency management is, try to break it down a little bit for you. So from a 30,000-foot view, emergency management is a shared responsibility. It includes locals, state, and federal levels. It's locally led, but also state coordinated and federally supported. It focuses on all hazards, not just natural disasters. It's a system, like I said, that includes preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation so that we can try to not have the issues that happen again. And it is the key to protecting lives, infrastructure, and the economy. What emergency management is not is just FEMA's job. It is not a one-size-all-fits model. The local capacity can vary widely from municipality to municipality. It is not just limited to storms and floods. It can also include other disasters such as cyber, health, and social crises. It is not typically fully funded or staffed. There can be chronic underinvestment. And it is not a reactive-only service. It requires planning and leadership before a disaster strikes. So this is the Somerville Office of Emergency Management mission statement. Our mission is to reduce the impacts of disasters together through a whole community approach, ensuring that everyone, regardless of background or circumstance, has access to the resources and support that they need to recover and thrive. So we do have a city website, and you can also follow us on social media by scanning the QR code in the center of the screen there, or typing the URL code into a web browser. Many thanks to the comms department for getting us set up on social media. It's a new page, and it's coming along great, in our opinion. This slide highlights just some of the things that the Somerville Office of Emergency Management has done in about the past year and a half. So for those who don't know, we are a newer department, branched out as a department under the mayor's office. And these are some of the things that we've accomplished over approximately the past year and a half. We are delivering civilian training, starting with city staff, as the FEMA Until Help Arrives program. So that goes over what you can do in the first few minutes when a disaster strikes or an emergency happens until professional first responders arrive. And we are also delivering the civilian response to active shooter events. We have developed several emergency management plans, starting with the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, which is the overarching plan for all emergency plans in the city. And then the ones listed below that in the middle box there are annexes to that main plan. We have stood up 3 unified coordination centers. One was for Porch Fest earlier this year. We will have one operating at our city EOC or Emergency Operations Center this Saturday, supporting Fluff Fest, and also have had one in the past and plan to again for elections. Part of our job in emergency management is to coordinate response with other city departments and outside agency partners, and that can be for events such as fires, severe weather incidents, heat and cold emergencies, the Winter Warming Center, and also recovery resource centers in the event of a fire where constituents need services brought to them. And just to highlight some recent residential fires that we coordinated and responded with other city departments. So in a span of 53 days, from July 6th of this year through August 28th of this year, there were 4 major fires in the city of Somerville that left 58 people displaced. So no fire and no response is ever the same, and that holds true to these 4 events. So 53 days, or an even shorter timeline, 3 events in just 18 days, the only similarity of these fires was that they were late night or overnight fires. The Office of Emergency Management coordinates a huddle or conference call with the necessary departments and agency partners immediately next day or as soon as possible to discuss the impacts, outstanding needs, casework being done, timelines, to determine what we can do to help the constituents that have been affected by this disaster. It's all about meeting individuals where they are at in a time of emergency or disaster, and the needs can vary widely. Collaboratively, the city and outside agency partners were able to assist all 58 residents during an extremely vulnerable time. So just to put a little bit of that into perspective for you, that these are some of the things that the Somerville Office of Emergency Management are doing. We're not always the folks that you see out with boots on the ground, more of the back scene, and happy to take those 2 questions.
Hi, my name's Eva Brox, and I live on Prospect Hill. Do you people, when you access some of these emergencies, do you have uniforms? Do you have signs that identify you? And you said it's I've never heard of this office before, so how many people do you have in the office?
Great question. So we talk like we're a very large department. We are actually a department of 2, myself and the director in the back of the room there. Typically, like I said, we are not boots on the ground at the emergency. There are certainly times where we will be, but a lot of our role is coordination and working with folks behind the scenes, whether that's the city departments at the time of the emergency or the disaster, or anyone who's affected afterwards. The way that you could recognize us is either by our city attire, or we always have our city ID badges on us as well.
Hi, Sylvia again. This probably has nothing to do with you, but just because it's so much in front of all of our minds, do you have anything to do with ICE?
No, we do not have, we are not affiliated and do not have anything to do with ICE. Oh, no, we do not respond. We don't have any law enforcement or anything like that in our duties.
Or any instructions on how people would react. I think that's more than what I'm asking. It's not, I mean. Yeah.
Okay, yes, so I would defer to the city on, we support what the city offers as far as the Know Your Rights trainings and going through SOIA and the protocols that, of course, you can always call either, 911 or the city if you need direction on how to handle a situation or incident if you find yourself in one.
Thank you so much, Lauren. If you guys are curious what a resource recovery center looks like after an emergency, I've heard that there is a great video on the social media pages demonstrating what that type of resource recovery center looks like. So feel free to check that out. Next up, I would like to welcome Estella Reganet, who is going to be speaking on behalf of our Public Space and Urban Forestry Division.
Thank you, Christine and Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Estella, and we are excited in the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division to announce the completion and publication of our Open Space and Recreation Plan, or OSRP, which serves as a guiding document for the next 10 years for our division. So it contains a lot of data about where we are with our parks, how far we've come since the publication of the last OSRP, and our goals and priorities for the next 10 years. General information includes Somerville history, the number of open space acres added, and park ownership. And so you can scan it using the QR code here. Next, we published our Somerville Pollinator Action Plan last year and are working on implementing some of that thinking, which includes adding pollinator planting at 4 parks across Somerville and demonstration pollinator gardens in front of City Hall. You can contribute to this effort by becoming a pollinator champion, and details can be found by scanning this QR code. And if you meet certain requirements, you can pick up a yard sign to show off to your neighbors that you're supporting pollinators. And this, go back, yeah. This autumn, we also want to remind folks that less is more. And so some tips from the Pollinator Action Plan gardens and plantings for the fall include planting natives, leaving leaves in your planted areas so that they can decompose and fertilize your soil, and not cut back perennials until May. Final reminder also that most of our pollinators are solitary and not defending nests, so they're less likely to sting if they're not threatened. So please try to leave them be. Next, in partnership with the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, this fall we're installing 10 inclusive swings, raising our percentage of playgrounds with inclusive swings from 23 to 83. And so the new swings will have a hard yoke, which is that plastic piece in front. But if you all know someone who is a caretaker of a child requiring a soft harness, please speak to me after the presentation. We can talk about how to get you one. We've also opened a new park named after Ken Kelly, a local Union Square changemaker at 217 Somerville Ave. So please pay the park a visit if you're in Union Square. Our urban forestry team continues to oversee 2 programs for proactive tree maintenance. So this year marks the completion of a full cycle of tree health assessments and responding to health issues for all trees in our parks, which means that in the following year, we'll start the cycle again. The second program makes sure that we're assessing the health of all trees that have reached the 3-year planting mark. And this maintenance program prolongs the life of individual trees and our urban forest, especially as we continue meeting our goal of planting 350 trees per year. And as far as construction updates in Ward 3, we are working on 2 projects, the first of which is right outside, the return of the Korean and Vietnam War Veterans Memorials on Central Hill. So we expect construction to wrap up in the next few weeks with the ribbon cutting slated for mid-October, and we hope to see you all there. And lastly, we will be starting construction on Quincy Street Pocket Park and installing 2 drinking fountains at Nunziato Field and inside the dog park. So as with all of our piece of projects, you can find details and project updates on Summer Voice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tammy McCannon. I live on Berkeley Street. I am wondering if you also manage the trees that are being planted in the sidewalk space, or if that is something separate with the development. And the reason I ask is because I'm wondering what the homeowners are allowed to do with that space. We used to plant flowers around the tree, and now some of that's been dug up, and there are 2 dead branches on our tree. And at various points we thought, well, we could just cut them off because they're kind of small. And then someone will come and trim those trees, and those 2 branches are still there. So then I thought, well, maybe there's a method to leaving the dead branches that I don't understand. So the question is, do you manage those pieces, and what is the homeowner's ability to mess with it?
Well, hopefully you're not messing with it. Ideally, you're not messing with it. But yes, we also manage street trees. Our urban forestry team works with that as well. So if you put in a 311 request or email trees@somervillema.gov, we can get to making sure that they are pruned by certified arborists as fast as possible. The flowers are another part of it. It's not really something that our division manages, and we don't know who is digging them or digging them out if they are putting them in. But ideally, you are making sure that the trees have enough of that soil volume to grow. So if you can, don't plant in the tree pits and leave it for the soil or the tree to use that as well.
I have one tree question and one park question.
Sure.
Tree related on behalf of one of my neighbors, some new trees don't seem like they're all being watered. Could you speak to what the watering process is for new plantings and what is helpful to report?
Mm-hmm.
And then can you speak to the timeline on when Lexington Park will open? I think a lot of people are really excited for that park.
On Junction.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So for the watering question, we do have a gardener on staff at DPW who sometimes has a watering truck to fill gator bags. If you see a gator bag empty, please feel free to email trees, or if you're able to, throw some water in there as well. So they are meant to slow release water over time, which really helps the trees, especially during drought conditions. And as for Junction Park, we had an excess of soils that needed removal. So because of that, we had to reopen a state level permit, which caused a little bit of the delay, which is why it's taken so long. And so there's just a small piece that needs to be completed, which can't be completed until this permit gets approved. But we are very, very close to remobilizing the construction team to finish the last piece, and they should be complete this fall, early fall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Costello. Next up, I would like to welcome Deputy Chief Donovan from the Somerville Police Department.
Can you hear me? I don't like standing behind a podium. I feel as though it's a barrier from a policing standpoint, at least. I'm looking around tonight. It looks like my high school statistics class at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So everyone just please show me you're alive. I'm going to do my best I can to go through the slides. We have a lot of slides, so I want to try to go through them. I don't know if you recognize Councilor Umbar. He came in, I think, after Councilor Eulenkamp and introduced people. Councilor Umbar is right back there. As introduced, my name is Jim Donovan. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Police Department. I've either been in Somerville as a resident or working in Somerville for 54 years. If you want to guess, I am 54 years old. So, no more jokes, but I'm just glad I'm going before Brad Rawson because his personality is hard to follow. He's a very hard act to follow, so I'm glad I'm going after Brad tonight. So as far as crime, I'd like to start with the bad news and then the good news. In general, crime across the city has increased 9% over the last year. It is alarming, but when we dug into it a little deeper, it is primarily driven by shoplifting and Assembly Row. What we're seeing now, we dug a little more deeper into that, and what we're seeing is that our retail partners are reporting more of the shopliftings in Assembly Row. There was a period of time there, believe it or not, where major businesses in Assembly Row were instructing their loss prevention not to report shopliftings below a certain amount to the police department. And that has changed over time as we built up more relationships down in Assembly Row. So we are seeing more reporting of shoplifting. Therefore, it's going to drive our numbers up a little bit. But they are shopliftings. Good news for you Ward 3 residents, crime is down. As you can see, crime is down 5% over the last year. We've seen some small increases in larcenies, 6 over a year. It's de minimis, it's tiny. Motor vehicle thefts were +3, that's another small number. And we're seeing decreases in crimes like burglary, robbery, aggravated assaults, more violent crimes. Now, what do we do in response to these reported crimes? The data we get from the individuals in the community and our own data analysts, we deploy our cars based on those patterns. Although you may think we drive around randomly, we don't. Every morning we roll call out to our officers what's going on in the community, what neighborhoods they should be at, what crimes taking place where, and we direct our resources to those areas. In circumstances where a ward may not be having a lot of crime, we may take that ward car and move them to a different ward during parts of the day to address crime in a different part of the city. Yep, here we go. Warm weather strategy. Chief Bedford came in. This is his first summer. I should say Chief Bedford wanted to be here tonight. He had a prior engagement and asked me to step in for him. And one of the things he realized, he recognized, is that we do see an increase in crime in the summertime. And he developed a warm weather strategy. And part of that was working with our stakeholders, working with our community members, our city partners, and to develop what our strategy should be for the summertime. The objectives were identify problems, work collaboratively towards creative solutions, identify resources and target locations based on the data, and deploy additional resources to address those concerns. This ran from July 1st and it's still running through the end of September. Chief Bedford also made a point to say, we're not one part of the city versus the other. So we really wanted to focus on the whole city. So where are our areas of concern? Davis Square. We're in central Somerville. You looked at the high school area up in here, and more in particular Union Square, busy business districts where we have a lot of visitors. And for East Somerville, we looked at the Healy School, the Mystic Housing Development, Lower Broadway, and Assembly Row. That's a lot right there, and that's an example of where we would direct another car from another part of the city to assist the cars in Ward 4 and Ward 1 with their covered areas. What do these officers do? If you look at the bottom here, we had almost 1,400 business, citizen, and youth contacts. What is that? It's when officers get out of a car for a call and they encounter someone on the street and start talking to them, or they go in a store and talk to one of the business owners or a constituent. They call that in and make sure that we record that with a business, citizen, or youth contact. If you'll see, 344% increase over the same period last year. Directed patrols, we had almost 1,300 directed patrols so far during this time, September 1st through, July 1st, September the 7th, we had 1,300 directed patrols. What's a directed patrol? It could be, the car just, identifying a certain neighborhood, go down that neighborhood, drive slowly through it, maybe a certain house of concern, make sure you give that house some extra attention, and maybe get out of the car and walk around that house or that business. We had 76% higher than the same period of time last year. And my favorite is park walk and talks. We have almost 600 park walk and talks. And what that is that we tell our officers, we instruct our officers to get out of their cars. Every officer in every ward gets out of their car, I'm sorry I'm ignoring this group, gets out of their car during the shift for 15 minutes to a half hour. And they walk around the neighborhood. They speak to business owners, they speak to constituents, they speak to neighbors. Anyone that will talk to them, they speak to the people in the neighborhood and make more contacts with them, build a police relationship with our community. Other things we've done to build trust and legitimacy in the community, National Night Out. That's our second year having National Night Out. Huge success. What is National Night Out? It's an annual event building a campaign that promotes community, police relationships, and partners with the neighborhood. We also had our community partners in the city. I think 311 had a booth. I don't know if Mobility had a booth this year, but most of the city services have booths set up, and we did it at Dilboy Field, so around the field everyone was set up. We also had private enterprises within the city, and we had bouncy houses, free pizza, free hot dogs cooked by our officers, ice cream, popcorn, touch a truck, and we had a dunk tank, and I was in the dunk tank. It was dunk the deputy. I turned 55 in January, and this is my last year in the dunk tank. So if you want to dunk me, you missed out. For other avenues we used to build trust and legitimacy in the community, we had a junior police academy. In that academy, we had 30 cadets graduate, ages 5th grade through 8th grade. This was done in collaboration with the Parks and Rec Department. And what that is it's not necessarily a police academy. We call it a junior academy, but it's not a police academy. It's more of a team building exercise for the youth. We had the state police dive team come in. They give a demonstration in the Kennedy pool. We had the state police air wing come in, and they did air wing with the drones. They did a drone demonstration with the children. We had 2 horses from the state police come in. The children learned first aid CPR. And last year they did a Red Sox game. The Red Sox were slow on tickets this year. We didn't get them in time, but we did get a block of tickets, and we gave them out to the cadets, and they had 3 tickets, for parents and friends and themselves. We also did an online safety course this year. Detectives in the detective unit went to Hill School, 8th grade, and talked about internet safety, social media safety, sexting, things like that. It was a huge success, and we're hoping to expand it into the whole school system this year. We had both officers in Spanish and Portuguese taught individual classes for foreign language speakers. In the Belmont 911 sessions, Captain Sheehan, who is here somewhere in the corner there, he attended the Asian Tea Party, and it was for our Asian community, and we talked about 911, how to call 911, non-emergency, emergency line, what to call, when, the language services we offer. We've always had a language line, so if you were to call in and it's a language that one of our dispatchers doesn't speak, they can cue you in to a language line and they can translate for you. I couldn't tell you how many languages there are, but we've never had an issue where we don't have a language on the language line. We had the same with the Brazilian community. We had Brazilian coffee social. Lieutenant De Oliveira, who's one of our lieutenants in the Detective Bureau, presented at that. What are our priorities for the future? Chief Bedford is always looking ahead. Tough man to work for. We're implementing the pilot model for the correspondence with the core unit. Again, it's mental health calls. We're implementing that slowly into the spring. There's a correspondence model with a police officer and a member of our core team. Work with the PSFA manager to implement the Public Safety for All recommendations. For those of you who don't know, Public Safety for All was run by the RHJ department. It was a study done as to what the community wants in their public safety, and the recommendations that came out of that model. And recently, the city hired a Public Safety for All manager working out of the mayor's office. We'll be working with him closely to implement the recommendations that fit the police department. There were some recommendations that have touched on other departments, but most of the recommendations were within the police department. And lastly create a community policing command within the SPD. We're really looking to expand on a community policing unit. Currently, we don't have a community policing unit. We've been short-staffed. We've had to pull back some of our officers to cover for patrol operations, which is the men and women you see in uniform every day. But we're hoping as we hire more officers to build that out and have those community police officers back in your community, back walking a beat, knowing those police officers' names, knowing Officer Jim, and such like that. So we're really hoping to implement that over the next 6 months to a year. Join the SPD. This is my baby right here. I know I'm talking a lot, so I'm going to wind it up, but we are hiring. We're hiring a lot. So if you know someone interested in a career in law enforcement, please direct them to the police department, give them my name, Deputy Chief Jim Donovan. They'll transfer them up. There are 2 ways now to join the police department in Massachusetts. There's a traditional civil service way. We sign up for civil service, you take an exam, and you get hired off that list. Civil service realized they were missing a whole pool of candidates, so they introduced a hybrid method. We were one of the first departments in the state to sign on to the new hybrid method within civil service. You no longer need to take the civil service exam when hired within this method. We post with our HR department, you apply, we interview you, we bring you in. You still have to go through a rigorous background check, complete a full-time police academy, and the ability to get post-certified, which is the Police Officer Standards and Training Commission that was implemented a number of years ago to track police officers. But this allows us to expand our pool of candidates. For example, when we hire someone today, if we hire you today, background, process to go for the city council, mayor's office, academy, field training. It's a year before you're on the street. 1 year. With this alternative process, we were able to hire 3 officers who came from a community background in universities. We had a Salem State officer, a Suffolk University officer, and an officer from UMass. All 3 of those officers already had police academies. So when we got them, they did our 8 to 10 week FTO training program, field training officer program, and they were on the streets. So it expedited our hiring. But we're still in the hiring process, so please, if you know of anyone interested in criminal law enforcement, send them over, please. And here's our non-contact, emergency contact numbers. I always have to point out this number here. People don't realize this. It's our non-emergency line, 625-1212. When I was a child, that was what was on the side of the cruisers before 911 was in existence. So please call that number, but I always caution you, if you feel like it's an emergency, you call 911. But if you know it's not an emergency, call the 1212 line, block driveway, cat in the tree, whatever it is. Call those, okay? Questions?
Sorry to come back. Patrick from Walnut Street again. Following up on my neighbor's question about ICE interactions with our neighbors. You can't go anywhere without seeing a notice to say, look out for ICE. What are you doing about ICE? If you see something, say something. What is the responsibility of the Somerville Police Department in protecting residents who are being taken off our streets from people in masks?
That's an excellent question, and I was expecting you to ask that question. So, a multi-prong answer. Can everyone hear me? That's why I don't like these. Multi-prong answer. There's the legal part of that, and Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court has told us that we cannot assist. We don't have the legal authority to assist in a civil removal proceeding. So if it's not signed by a judge, by merely an administrator, we don't have the authority to do anything or assist. If there is a warrant signed by a judge, we have a legal obligation to assist. That being said, we have not had a call from ICE to assist in a warrant service this year, or in my recollection, ever. But I will say is that ICE has not been communicating with the local police departments. So most of our response or information we get about ICE being in the community is from the community. We're not getting necessarily forewarning or requests for cooperation from ICE. Yes, sir.
I guess, so yes, you're not assisting them, but what about preventing harm to the community?
Great question. So if we are called to an incident where if our federal partners or federal authorities are conducting their own operation, we would stand by. We can't legally interfere with their operation, but we have an obligation to watch what they're doing and make sure they're not harming our citizens, physically harming them. So if there is excessive force, we're required to step in. Hope that answers your question. We would do that. That's part of our protocol. We would do that. But like I said, we haven't had an occurrence where we've had to do that because they're coming in, they're not telling us where they are, and by the time we get the call and respond, they're gone. But we would. That's part of our protocol. We ask for their identifications and their supervised information. Granted, they do not have to provide that. They do not to us. I'll be around till the end of the night. If you have any questions, please come see me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chief Donovan. And last but certainly not least, we have Brad Rawson, who is the director of our mobility department.
Thanks, Christine. Maybe I can follow Jim's lead and use that wireless too. Check it out. I also brought a stopwatch to make sure that in the very hot topics of street safety, of mobility, of mass transit, of walking, of biking, of parking, that we could obviously go deep, as the mayor said earlier, but we want to be respectful of your time. So, hey everybody, my name is Brad Rawson. When the mayor asked if any of you are first-timers, there were very few hands. So many of you have been my neighbors for a long time. I've been a part of this community for 18 years. I'm a Somerville resident. I'm a proud parent in our amazing public schools. And I've worked a few different roles in the city over the years, but my current role for the last 10 years has been leading something called our mobility division. That is a small but mighty team of 8 staff who are planners, policy people, engineers and designers, and community engagement specialists. Our mission, derived from community feedback in Somerville, is to save lives on our street, to make our buses run on time, to build transit extensions like the Green Line extension, make sure our residents have more ways to get around, to provide choice in the transportation network, to really facilitate our commitments under our climate plan, and make the green choice, the affordable choice, the easy choice. We recognize that everybody has different needs, different backgrounds, different ways of traveling, and yet folks, we got to be super honest. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, public policy in this country systematically disenfranchised and disempowered communities in urban centers. We chose to strip away mass transit in the 1950s. How many of you have seen pictures of the old Gilman Square commuter rail? Right down the road here, it was called the Winter Hill Station. There was good, reliable mass transit in almost every city in North America. And guess who bought them out? The rubber companies, the petroleum companies. Guess who underwrote the costs? The federal government, based on anti-urban policy. It's happening again today. And so as our community rallies around one another, just like Deputy Chief Donovan was talking about, we are committed to a transportation system that is safe, equitable, and accessible to everybody. That means whether you walk, bike, roll, drive, catch the bus, catch the train, we want choices for you. And the folks in Washington are going to try to take them away. We're going to work with you to make sure that we're preserving them, okay? So our little small but mighty team in mobility depends on partnerships with a heck of a lot of city departments. We don't do it all, and I could spend the next 5 minutes calling out each and every department here, from with engagement, economic development with support for business engagement, engineering who actually helps us design and manage construction, police and fire who help us test our work and make sure that fire trucks can turn in projects like the Spring Hill reconstruction. But let me just kind of take a quick step back. All of us together, all of our departments, we're accountable to you. And at the end of an average year, you can expect to see approximately 3 miles of repaved streets. And folks, look, we have experienced systemic and generational disinvestment in urban infrastructure, pothole streets, crumbling school buildings. These problems are bigger than this generation of public servants or taxpayers, but it's part of our role to fix the problems. And I'm proud to say that even though you might say we need more streets paved, we're doing 3 miles a year, right, Brian? Right, Jesse? That's awesome. And it's hard, in part because we are committed to upgrading gas services, water services, stormwater services before we pave, so that you all don't look at us and be like, wait a second, you just paved that thing. Why are you carving it up again? It takes time, it takes coordination, and 3 miles is a good rate for a city like Somerville. We always want to get better. And if you actually want to see the 10-year trend of how we got here, all of this is in publicly information available online. An average year in our world involves 2 miles of sidewalk reconstruction. We have so many inaccessible sidewalks and curb ramps. Think about the snow piles, think about the puddles, think about the tree roots heaving, think about just like the basic maintenance and cracking of concrete over time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of coordination, and a lot of money to rebuild sidewalks for accessibility. And we're able to do 2 miles a year. That's a good rate, and we're working to continue to improve it. This community has spoken loud and clear and said we are feeling unsafe on our streets. We feel menaced by drivers, too many of them with too large vehicles, driving too fast, driving distracted. And so you all have given us a mandate to make our streets safer. Those of you who are veterans of our community meetings will know that we constantly say enforcement is not the way to solve these problems at scale or with equity. The way that we save lives on our street is by building streets where you physically cannot drive at unsafe speeds. We define unsafe speeds as approximately 30 miles an hour. So honestly, most of our streets are designed these days for more like 20 miles per hour, because if a motor vehicle strikes a human being, you've got a really good chance of survival at a 20 mile per hour collision. You got a real coin flip at 30, And don't even talk to me about what happens if a human gets hit at 40 miles an hour. So that's part of the reason that we're building speed humps, raised crosswalks, raised intersections all over our city. I think it's really important to underscore that we do constant pulse checks with our community to make sure that we are continuing to do the things that you are asking us to do. And for anybody out there who thinks that, oh, those city staff are just doing their thing, we are constantly back-checking our work through community meetings, through tabling, through surveys, business visitation, youth engagement workshops. We do more than 100 per year in our little team of 8 staff, and that does not count 30 or 40 or 50 city council meetings, advisory boards, and commission meetings. We are constantly in this community. Most of us live here, and we're living this with you all. So I think it's just really important to kind of take that step back of why we do what we do and what a year in our lives looks like. Are we getting results? Speed humps everywhere can slow down driving, and people can talk about the negative impacts. We think it's worth the trade-offs, and here's some of the evidence that shows us that we are moving the needle. When you look at 10 or 15 years worth of crash data compiled by Somerville Police Department, validated by state DOT, published on our online portals through 311 and elsewhere, you see 20 and 30% drops in the number of crashes on Somerville streets over time. Some of that is dumb luck. There is a lot of risk out there every day, as we all know. We get something like 500 of the 311s that Alex and Eileen and Ed work with asking for these types of solutions, right? So even though we've moved the needle and dropped the number of crashes, there's still a lot of risk out there. But Victoria, if you don't mind going to the next slide, these are the numbers. This is kind of zoomed in. These are the crashes that we really care about. Fender benders, single vehicle side swipes, single vehicles hit in a sign, those are inconveniences, but the priority for us is saving lives, and that means people walking, wheeling, and biking. Those are the collisions that we want to control for. And we also see downward trends over the course of a decade or more. I think it is a testament to the hard work and the stick-to-itiveness of the Somerville community, saying let's work through getting speed limits down, getting people educated, and building streets where you physically can't drive at unsafe speeds. More to come. We track all of our work. You can find all this work online. More and more speed humps, crossing islands. Think about those big scary crossings on places like Somerville Avenue, Washington Street, Broadway, where you got multiple lanes in the same direction, where you got turning lanes. Sometimes something as simple as a concrete raised island the size of this podium or a little bit bigger would allow a pedestrian to cross half the street, reassess, look both ways, be more visible to the motorists. And so all of those treatments are counted in this tracker. And I want to just really give a shout out to Mayor Ballantyne, to her predecessor, Mayor Curtatone, to our city councilors, current, past, Will, Jake, Ben, Kristen, so many others. Folks, this stuff is hard. You all, as elected officials, receive such a volume of resident demand for these types of treatments, but it's on our staff. Folks like Brian and Jesse in engineering, folks like me and my team, procurement staff, communication staff on Denise's side, like how do we actually bring these solutions to scale? This is a tremendous upward trajectory, and there's more to come. But the rules of government are super complex. It's not that they're slow, and we hate the image of moving at the speed of government, but you folks need to understand that like public procurement is slow, managing contractors has risk, sometimes contractors dig and then they get sent off to another job site. It is constant work to deliver the raised crosswalks, the speed humps, the priority bus lanes and bus stop extensions that you are all asking us for. So we do ask for your forgiveness when things feel slow. We do ask for your tolerance when the construction impacts feel unbearable. And all of you who lived through the Spring Hill job, thank you. Thank you for putting up with sewer renewals, for green infrastructure installation, and for traffic calming. And please know, we're not just making this stuff up out of blue, thin air. We really feel like we are doing the people's work in this transportation agenda. So I think that's about it for my standard presentation. Victoria, anybody who wants to dive deeper and learn more, couple things to do. If you are advocating, like Prescott Street residents have been advocating, hey, can we have speed humps on our street? We have an online map where you can actually find where we intend to be over the next year or two. So file those 311s, talk to your city councilors, email transportation at, come to the table events like our staff had this afternoon. I saw them on the community path, and give us your concerns. We are here to be responsive to you all, and we have an obligation to tell you whether something can be implemented in 3 months, 12 months, or 2 years. But this is an awesome new public engagement tool that Ben actually really stimulated us to work on. So thank you, Ben, and I hope you're continuing to be proud of that transparency. Quick show of hands. Anybody among the 1,700 or 1,800 Somerville residents who receive our monthly newsletter from the Mobility Division? Hey, that's better than some rooms. Look, everybody's got newsletter fatigue and information overload, but you know, one of my former supervisors and mentors, a great public servant named George Proakis, always said, Brad, the second worst thing in Somerville is that somebody says they disagree with your policy decision or your project management. The worst thing, you can see where I'm going with this, I didn't know about it. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll know where we're going to be, and you will get the information about whether something is 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 36 months into the future. We take a lot of pride in it. It's not just like talking for talking's sake. It's connecting people to actual outreach, surveys, meetings, design development. We take a lot of pride in it, so please honor us with joining that mailing list. Several Ward 3 specific safety and access initiatives are underway right now. When I hopped off the Green Line to come to this meeting, I saw 3 of my staff members interviewing residents on the community path. How many people feel like we're almost victims of our own success with the path in terms of user conflicts, speeds, heavier mopeds, e-bikes, people kind of in each other's way sometimes? Somerville's not alone in this, everybody. Every community in North America that is building shared use paths like our community path is dealing with these types of growing pains. But we're trying to connect with those folks to say, how can we all share this limited space together? So active surveys, community engagement meetings, some of this is going to be education, pavement markings, signage, and maybe even like mini speed bumps for bike riders. So this is all underway right now. Western Pearl Street, not technically part of Ward 3, but it is in our construction pipeline. We're pretty far along in this design process. People have been super engaged. We're really excited to deliver safety and access improvements in the Gilman Square neighborhood, connecting Ward 3 to East Somerville. And then last but not least, we have a quick build bike facility project underway in community engagement for Somerville Avenue from Wilson Square to Union Square. All this information's online. My stopwatch tells me I've talked way too long, so I think that is it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Hey, look, this is our community. The world's on fire. Thank you for volunteering your time to preserve our democracy and meet as neighbors in these common spaces.
Hi, Sylvia again. I actually have a real major
A complaint, Sylvia? A complaint?
Central Street between Summer Street and Highland Street. One way, it was ridiculous. It is the most absurd thing I have ever seen. You've taken away parking, which is I know people around here think we shouldn't drive, but some of us have to. We need parking. The congestion, when there are emergency vehicles, it stops traffic. It stops traffic. Because there's no place for these people to pull over. Delivery people. It's ridiculous. It's the most stupid thing I've ever seen, as well as the bump outs on Summer Street from Union Square up past St. Catherine's. Those are dangerous. I'm sorry, those are hellacious. And the bump outs trying to turn from Laurel Street, it's poorly designed. I have no problem with speed bumps, but stuff like that, it's really stupid. Other than that, you're doing a great job.
Well said, Sylvia, and I'll file that under the complaints, not the other word. Thank you. I think it's important to note that we are not omniscient. We don't always get it right. And one of the things that our offices have been committed to and really done in the last few years is when we feel that a design is not working according to plan, then we make changes. So, Assistant Chief Tierney, Sean, I remember when your teams were telling us about some of the school street bump outs, and you said, hey folks, I feel like we're having trouble turning apparatus on a specific corner. We take that feedback seriously. Jesse and Dan and the construction team that were managing it work with the engineers, go out and take new measurements, and we'll actually sometimes tell our contractors to go rip a piece of curb out, modify things to reflect reality. We actually did some stuff similar in the East Somerville neighborhood a couple years ago. Remember, Jesse, when the first neighborhood traffic circle didn't quite fit the right snowplow blade? I tell these stories to say that we are humble and we approach this work with humility. The jury's not in yet from our standpoint on Central Street, but I hear you loud and clear, Sylvia. We will be taking video studies. We will be talking with delivery companies and residents, our first responders. We talked about our traffic signal program, and we really think that that is part of the solution set. Jessica and our engineering team are working on that. Again, we all live in the neighborhood. We're in this together. So I hear you. I'm not trying to minimize your concern, your complaint. In fact, I want to lift it up. Thank you.
So to piggyback off Sylvia, on a lesser note, I live off of School Street, and I know that there have been some attempts to make it easier to turn, but they took away a parking spot right where it meets Oxford. But you can't turn there, even in going slowly, even in a smaller car. And I'm just very concerned about when we actually do have snow against those edges, how we're going to go without hitting somebody, without going out of the way, or just not being able to move our cars back, frankly. Is that a 311 thing we go to?
So thanks for that observation. And again, our staff are testing these streets just like you are, perhaps not as frequently, but we're driving, we're making those turns as well in different sized vehicles. So that evaluation is underway. Again, I don't want to presuppose that our conclusion will be that something was built too aggressively, but there's a process for us to evaluate that. And if we determine that it's less safe than it was, then we will make changes. Cool, okay. I'll stick around and happy to chit chat with folks until the end of the evening. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Brad, and thank you so much to everybody that presented tonight. We are now going to transition into the Q&A portion of the evening. I would ask that city staffers be prepared to answer questions if you get called upon, so maybe move over to this side of the room. Okay, Q&A.
Hi, it's me again. I have a question about the mobility. I recently had a very bad bike accident on one of your new bike lanes on Summer Street. It's very narrow, and I went off the curb and crashed very badly. The ambulance took me to this, and I'm having surgery in a few weeks for a broken shoulder, basically. So I just wanted to point out the particular, it's raised for some reason, that particular bike lane, whereas most aren't. And I would urge you to take a look at that and maybe even it out. So if you get off that curb, you don't crash or get hit by a car coming from behind.
Sam, I'm so sorry you had that experience. No crash is okay, and part of our job is to make sure that crashes like yours do not happen. Can you tell me which block you were on, and then our team obviously will include that also
I
as
will
part of
tell
our
you
review.
before the meeting, before the evening is over.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry that this is going to seem like piling on with the poor mobility person, but you look like you've got a thick skin. I wanted to say, just in a general way, the challenge and vulnerability of the transitions and the communication, particularly for pedestrians. So starting back when the Union Square change happened, there was never a mention that the all walk was going to happen. I encountered it with my daughter as I walked across and the cars started coming. And I went back through all the data, and I never saw that it had ever identified that. So I have a new one, which is that on the corner of School and Summer, and on the corner of Central and Summer, the traffic lights now, instead of only just being an all walk, will let you cross School and Central one way, like if the cars are all going that way, right? Because it's a one way. When you cross that way, when you just get to do the one, and then it goes to an all, if you push the button, the audio button, while you have a red light trying to cross Summer or School, Central, Summer on both of those streets, it will say the crosswalk is on, or the light is on to cross. And the light is not on to cross, it's red. It's red crossing Summer Street, both at School and at Central. And so if you were counting on just the audio, you would start walking and you would have a red light.
Great feedback. I'm looking at our senior traffic engineer, my close colleague, Jessica. This is an issue that we have been aware of, right, Jessica? Right, Brian? And we're working to correct. There's been some new equipment that was installed and some bugs in the system. These are the things that we try to mobilize very, very quickly and fix. Brian, Jessica, do you want to chime in on any process on that piece of the puzzle?
Again, I'm Brian Postlewaite, Director of Engineering. The Spring Hill project is part of my team's construction. And this particular issue is one that we are aware of. There's a couple other signal issues that we're working through. And these are high on these last punch list items to resolve to end the construction project. It is a challenge to get them right the first time. If anyone's ever tried to make sure that the computer works right every single time, signals are like small computers, and sometimes when they don't do what you expect them to do, it takes a while to find the actual bug. So that's what our consultant or our contractor is currently trying to work on and find the right solution to this problem. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I live on Highland Ave. I'm curious to know how closely the Office of Sustainability and the Office of Mobility work together as you're repaving roads and relaying sidewalks, and if you're considering any new sustainable materials that are lower carbon.
Thanks, Victoria. I appreciate your question. And I'm looking to my colleague, Elise, as well as Brian and others. I've been talking a bunch, and I wouldn't mind if anybody else wanted to help answer this question. Short answer is we have regular standing meetings. We meet all the time. We're always trying to coordinate policy work, project design, recognize that there are new materials, new standards evolving. So, Elise, anything you want to chime in on like materials to Victoria's question? Brian, Jesse, about maybe different pavement or pavers. I think you mentioned that specifically.
Hi, again, I'm Elise. I'm the Sustainability and Resiliency Planner in the Office of Sustainability and Environment. And so something that we've been working on with the engineering team is that we had applied for an MVP action grant to look into some information or research around engineering for trees as well as the sidewalks to keep everything really accessible and help trees live longer. Unfortunately, we didn't receive the grant this year, but we had a meeting this week with the MVP team to learn more and get some feedback, and they highly recommended we apply next year. And so that's something that we've been working on collaboratively together. And Brian, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
You got it.
Elise, did you mention permeable pavers? You know, think about like tree roots. We talked about sidewalk maintenance. You'll notice that on a lot of our recent construction jobs, the cement concrete, kind of classic gray sidewalk changes to something a little bit reddish. It's like an aggregate permeable paver that lets more water in and also allows tree roots to expand as they grow, reducing cracking and ADA trip hazards and other access barriers. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to be working with these interdisciplinary teams to do what you're describing.
Hi, I'm not going to bother you again, I promise. You're off the hook. I just have a question on, I guess, basic, maybe housing or economics. I'm not sure exactly where this is going to fall. But I've recently noticed that the house on Monmouth that used to be a Walnut Street shelter, home, whatever, is now up for sale. And I want to know what is going on there. Is that going to be luxury condos again?
So if I have the house correct, yeah, and it's got a really large yard. That's owned by the Somerville Housing Authority. So I would say we need to reach out to them. They're not a department of the city, but they are obviously looking to sell it. So who the buyer is, I'm not sure if they have specific restrictions underneath that.
Hey there, my name's Brian. I live on Porter Street. As you can tell by my accent, I'm also an immigrant as well. But this is probably for the DPW more than anybody else that's here. But the city has absolutely done a horrible job, absolutely horrible, at maintaining the streets. The streets, I give it an F. There is absolutely horrible. You should never have a street like Highland Avenue. You should never have a street like behind what's the JFK school. It should never get to that. So what is the city, and when they actually fix it, they actually do not fix the streets. You put on, everything can't be just done with asphalt. I'm an engineer. If you want to talk to an engineer how to fix a street, I'll be more than happy to help you fix the streets. But there is absolutely, just throwing asphalt on there and using a hand roller doesn't actually fix the issue, and that's why there's the pothole next to it that opens up. So what is the city going to do to fix these issues for the future? Thank you.
Brian, just since I'm closer to the mic than Brian P., why don't I start? We have a 5-year plan. So we are doing systematic evaluation, repaving, using different types of pavement for different conditions, right, Brian? You collect data on street conditions citywide to prioritize based on how bad things are.
Brad always tries to steal my thunder. So yes, I hear you, and I actually kind of agree with you. Like, I wish I could pave more streets, like 2 to 3 times as much as a year as we can. We have a backlog of street repaving in the city, and every 3 to 5 years, we do a 3-year-long study to study the condition of the pavement throughout the city. Every square foot of roadway, every square foot of sidewalk, we're measuring. And we take that data and we combine it with how often we travel on any particular streets, and we combine that data together to determine the priority of paving the streets in the city. We can't pave all of the streets in any one year, but it gives us a list and a way to work through that. And we publish that on our website under engineering. I think what you might have been more referring to was our pothole repairing. And I can talk to you a little bit more after that. Honestly, our pothole patrol is trying to get rid of the curse of some of the worst streets. They have to deal with the worst streets in the city, and they're just trying to get them to a point where they're passable. They're not trying to fix them or repair them. They're trying to keep them usable. And my team comes in on an annual basis with a repair contract, or for a reconstruction contract, to minimize and actually accomplish as much paving as we can in a year. But we're never going to be able to hit it all anytime soon. But we're trying to. Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
If you can't hear me, if you take any of the studies from the American Society of Civil Engineers, which I'm a part of, you'll see that you can actually make a road last longer if you actually maintain it. And you don't have to pave the road to maintain the road, you know?
I agree with you, and we should talk details afterwards.
Sorry, I have another question for mobility. So I was just in Germany, where I learned that Germany has 2 big research facilities where they develop the most durable asphalt that you can come across. Not only to do that, but the contractor in Germany would typically give a 10-year warranty. I don't think they give a warranty at all in this country.
Sam, I think that's a Brian question. Take a note.
So is the question about warranty or about the durability of pavement? Durability of pavement. So our asphalt streets, so our standard, there's 2 major components of our streets. One is just the surface layer, which is the asphalt. And asphalt even here lasts for about 10 to 20 years. Asphalt, as you're probably aware, has different mixes in every climate and in every country around the world because it's so dependent on the actual weather in a community and in a region. So the asphalt that's in Germany is by definition going to be different than the asphalt in New England, which is going to be different than the asphalt in Florida or California. And that's just because temperatures are different and the demands on the pavement are different. So our asphalt is based off of the best standards that Massachusetts has for pavements. The next point is the base course underneath it. And our goal is to get to a point where we're paving and resurfacing it before we get the potholes that are damaging the surface below the paving. And that's just a treadmill that we continue running against. And we're getting closer every year to meeting that goal everywhere.
Just a quick follow-up on that. How are you dealing with climate change?
Sam, right? You remind me of the warranty. Pavement warranty is 2 to 3 years for our asphalt streets, and we guarantee them for 5 years. But honestly, there's so much development, so much construction in the city that we're actually actively having to do certain repairs in the streets, the utilities before that. So that's actually a harder question to answer. As far as climate change goes, luckily, that degree of climate change isn't impacting here, the pavements yet. That's a different story in Phoenix, but luckily we're not Phoenix. Our pavements aren't melting yet. But yes, that does happen in some places in the world.
All right, everybody, we're going to take one last question. It is 8:30 now, so this will be the final question of the evening.
When you talk about redesigning streets and everything else, did you ever think of people who have mobility issues, people like blind people and, folks in wheelchairs, especially with your street traffic signals and things like that? A blind person can't always hear the cars coming, when they turn corners or when the lights change. The signals aren't loud enough, that they don't sound synchronized enough. Some of them will say, please wait. Some say warning lights are flashing or something like that. But it's not consistently one thing or another. And that's confusing.
Thanks for the question. Short answer is yes. We always think about all road users, and the engineering team, the mobility team, and other city departments work with a variety of community partners, including but not limited to the Council on Aging. Ashley's here representing Council on Aging, working with our Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Jessica, I would appreciate it if you'd be willing to talk about the specific lived experience of people with visual impairments and the work that you've been doing to try to make sure that traffic signals are understandable, legible, signage, and braille. This is something that you've worked with the advocacy community on to actually tailor Somerville specific innovations, right?
Thank you for your question. So regarding traffic signals specifically, we are working to upgrade all of the push buttons so that they are uniform around the city. We are in the process of kind of reaching the very last of the traffic signals this year, and next year we'll be able to have upgraded all of our accessible push buttons. And beyond that, we will work to make the language consistent, the audible language consistent. We have just started to install signage at all of these push buttons as well that has raised text of the street name sign. So we're lowering the street name sign to be at a level that's accessible. In addition, it has a braille message on it that reads the message of the push button sign. So from a traffic signal perspective, that's how we're working to incorporate accessibility for our blind and visually impaired community. We have also been working with orientation and mobility specialists to talk about different ways that we can make our streets more accessible, especially at raised locations, because we understand that that raised location doesn't have the vertical surface that you look for in a normal crossing. So we are working to figure out solutions to these problems that the community has raised.
And with that, we have reached the end of our Ward 3 City Hall community meeting. I would like to thank all of the presenters, all of the city staffers that came out tonight, and thank you to all of you who came out. We couldn't do it if you didn't come, so appreciate that. One thing, sorry, that I want to touch on before we leave, I know there were some questions about ICE and like what Somerville specifically is doing about it, and if that's something that you're interested in getting more information on, I would encourage you to stop by the City of Somerville Language Access Services table, where they have plenty of flyers, plenty of materials about Know Your Rights trainings, little cards with your rights on them and what to do should you find yourself in an encounter with ICE. And if that's something you're interested in, please stop by and see them on your way out. But thank you all so much.